As many of you know, I used to be a pure Micro Four Thirds shooter. And in this video, I want to show you my favorite Micro Four Thirds lens. Lenses. We need them, we love them, we clean them, and we break them. Okay, the last one is hopefully not true. To my surprise, even with just such a small following, I get quite many questions about gear via Instagram or YouTube. Because many see the results I get with my Lumix GX80, they ask themselves what lens I shoot with. This of course varies depending on the situation, but there is one lens that definitely has been attached to my camera way more often than any other lens. Let's just briefly go over the few lenses I own. My choice is not huge. I own a total of 3 lenses for my GX80. They are here in my GX80 RAW. Attached to the camera right now we have the 14-140mm, and if we come over here, this is the 20mm f1.7. This is a vintage Canon lens, a Canon FD lens, but with a FD to Micro Four Thirds adapter. This is a 50mm f1.8. Because the 50mm is a Canon adapted lens, we're not counting it. Therefore my favourite Micro Four Thirds lens is one of the other two because I've never tried any other lenses. The 14-140mm is my all-rounder. It's useful for almost anything I shoot. However, it quickly reaches its limits when it comes to low light or nice bokeh, in which case I'll switch over to the 20mm f1.7. This lens gives you a much shallower depth of field thanks to the low aperture. And another factor in which this lens shines is its impressively compact size and weight. So which of these two lenses are my favourite and why? To answer this question, let's have a more detailed look at the advantages and disadvantages of both of these lenses. The 14-140mm really shows off its capabilities with its zoom range. The lens starts with a fairly wide 28mm full-frame equivalent and punches in far into the distance up to a 280mm full-frame equivalent. To be able to shoot steadily at such long focal lengths without needing a particularly high shutter speed, Panasonic equips this lens with their first-class optical image stabilization. Combined with the IBIS from the GX80, I've been able to get sharp shots with a shutter speed as low as 1/10. The main downside I get with this lens is the variable aperture. When zoomed out at 14mm, this lens gives you a minimum aperture of f3.5, but as soon as you start to increase your focal length, the f-stop also increases until at 140mm the aperture is at f5.6, thus the description being 3.5 to 5.6. The 20mm f1.7 mainly shows off with its beautiful bokeh when you stop down to f1.7. The only big disadvantage with this lens is the fixed focal length. You're stuck at 20mm, which is not at all a bad focal length, a 40mm full-frame equivalent, but it strongly reduces your flexibility when shooting. A small but not that significant disadvantage of this lens is that it does not have optical image stabilization, but because I use it on my GX80 which has IBIS, it does not cause a problem for me. So after this mini review of both lenses, I can imagine that you have already guessed which lens is my favorite. It's the 14-140mm. I came to realize this especially during my time in Scotland a few months ago. I had the 14-140mm attached almost the whole trip. It might not be impressively sharp and it might not give me the amount of background separation I hoped for, but due to its zoom range, this lens becomes an absolute master of versatility. I can shoot wide, I can punch in nicely, and something I enjoyed a lot in Scotland is I can even go really telephoto and shoot landscapes from far away from my position. And as a bonus, it has image stabilization, which eased shooting out of a car. So if any one of you is on the search for a lens of this kind for maximum flexibility when shooting, I can genuinely recommend the 14-140mm. Yeah. That's it for this week. If you found some valuable information in this video, leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe and I hope to see you again.